Hello there, and welcome. I'm really glad you're here tonight. Maybe today felt long. Maybe it felt heavy or busy or quietly full in a way that's hard to explain. Or maybe it was an ordinary day that simply used up more of you than you expected. However you arrived here, you don't need to carry any of that with you now. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to understand, nothing you need to remember. You can let your body rest exactly where it is. Let your breathing slow without trying to change it. Let your thoughts move at their own gentle pace, like clouds drifting across a darkened sky. If your mind wanders, that's not a problem. Wandering is welcome here. Tonight, we're going to explore psychology, but not the sharp, analytical kind. Not tests or labels or diagnoses. Instead, we'll move through psychology as a soft map of the human mind. Quiet patterns, familiar tendencies, gentle truths about how thoughts fade, how emotions soften, and how awareness slowly loosens its grip as sleep approaches. Think of your mind like a dimly lit room at night. The lights aren't off, they're just low. Shapes are still there, but their edges blur. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing calls your name. You're simply present, floating in the space between doing and resting. In this space, psychology becomes something very human. It sounds like the way thoughts drift before sleep. It feels like the moment when you stop replaying the day and start sinking into the mattress. It looks like still water, barely moving, reflecting whatever passes overhead without holding on to it. As we go on, I'll share a series of calming psychology facts. Each one is small, self-contained, like a stepping stone laid gently in the dark. You don't need to step on every one. You don't even need to know where they lead. Some you'll hear clearly, some you'll miss entirely, and that's exactly how it's meant to be. If you fall asleep halfway through a sentence, that's perfect. If you wake up and don't remember anything at all, that's perfect too. This channel is simply here to keep you company. A quiet place you can return to whenever sleep feels distant, or whenever your mind wants something soft to rest against. No pressure, no expectations, just a familiar voice in the dark. So for now, allow your shoulders to drop. Let your jaw loosen. Let the day gently close its door behind you. We're going to begin with the first small idea, easing into it the way you might turn down a lamp at night. No sudden changes, no sharp edges, just a slow drift into rest. As you get closer to sleep, your mind often begins to drift in a very natural way. Thoughts stop lining up neatly, and instead they begin to wander, connecting softly without effort. This isn't your mind losing control. It's your brain changing gears, like a lantern being slowly turned down. Ideas float in and out, the way leaves move across still water, without urgency or direction. This wandering is actually a quiet signal of safety. When the brain no longer needs to stay alert, it allows thoughts to roam freely. That drifting feeling before sleep is not a problem to fix. It's a sign that rest is already beginning, that your mind feels safe enough to let go of focus and simply drift. As this happens, the brain also loosens its strict rules. Logic, which works so hard during the day, gently steps aside at night. The mind becomes less interested in being correct or orderly. Thoughts don't need to make sense. Images blur together. Memories mix with imagination. It's like watching puzzle pieces rearrange themselves without forming a picture, or seeing a detailed map slowly dissolve into watercolor. Strange or illogical thoughts are not mistakes. They're part of the transition into rest. At night, the brain prefers softness over precision, associations over answers, and gentle imagery over clear conclusions. In this softer state, gentle daydreaming often appears, not the kind that pulls you into planning or excitement, but the quiet kind that feels like floating. Images may come and go without a story. You might picture shapes, colors, or places without meaning. This kind of imagination doesn't stimulate the nervous system. It soothes it. Like watching clouds change shape in the sky, there's nothing to follow and nowhere to arrive. Daydreaming like this leads inward, away from effort, allowing the mind to rest without becoming empty. It's a calm middle space between thinking and sleeping. As these gentle thoughts repeat and drift, the brain begins to feel even safer. Repetition plays an important role here. Familiar sounds, familiar rhythms, familiar ideas tell the mind that nothing urgent is happening. Like ocean waves arriving one after another, or a clock ticking softly in another room, repetition creates stability. It's why bedtime routines feel grounding, and why hearing similar words or tones again and again can be comforting. Repetition is not boring to the brain. It's reassuring. It's a quiet promise that the moment is predictable and safe. The brain is especially drawn to gentle patterns at night. Soft rhythms, steady pacing, and simple structures help reduce mental alertness. Think of falling snow, slow breathing, or distant rainfall. These patterns don't demand attention. They invite it to rest. When the mind senses order without effort, it relaxes. Even listening itself can become a pattern. The sound of a calm voice, the steady flow of words, something the brain can settle into without trying to understand. And as all of this unfolds, emotions often begin to soften. The dark reduces stimulation. Colors fade. Lights dim inside the mind the same way they do inside a quiet house at night. Feelings don't disappear, but they lose their sharp edges. Worries whisper instead of shout. Sensitivity at night is natural and temporary. It's part of the brain preparing for rest, turning down intensity so the mind can drift safely towards sleep. At night, emotions often step back into softer shapes. As alertness slowly fades, the brain begins to lower the volume on feelings, the way a dimmer switch turns light into a gentle glow. Worries may still be there, but they lose their sharp edges. Strong reactions soften into quieter impressions. It's like hearing voices from another room, still present, but distant and less demanding. This isn't avoidance or suppression. It's the nervous system recognizing that the day is over, that vigilance is no longer required. Emotional intensity eases because the brain senses it's safe to rest. As this softening continues, the brain also begins to set down its tools. Your mind knows when it's time to stop fixing things. Problem solving, which feels so urgent during the day, slowly loosens its grip at night. Thoughts that circle without resolution don't need answers right now. Imagine a desk cleared at the end of a long day, papers stacked, tools gently put away. Unfinished ideas can wait until morning. The brain understands this instinctively, releasing its need to solve and allowing space for rest. In this quieter space, memory work often begins. Before sleep, your mind becomes a quiet librarian. Without effort or awareness, memories start to shift and settle. Experiences from the day are gently sorted, like books being placed back on shelves in low light. This can happen even before you fall fully asleep. Rest itself is productive in ways you don't need to witness. The brain continues its quiet organizing, preparing space for calm, even as your awareness drifts. Because of this process, emotional memories often feel different the next day. Sleep doesn't erase memories, it reshapes how they feel. Like ink drying on paper, or waves smoothing sharp stones, the emotional charge attached to experiences may soften overnight. What feels heavy now can often feel quieter by morning. There are no promises here, only gentle possibilities. The brain has a way of easing emotional weight while you rest. All of this is easier when the mind feels safe. Sleep comes more easily when the brain senses protection and familiarity. A locked door, a warm room, curtains drawn, stillness itself communicates safety. Quiet tells the nervous system that nothing is required. In these moments, the mind loosens its grip naturally, without effort or instruction. And one of the simplest signals of safety is sound. Soft voices give the brain permission to rest. Tone matters more than words. Slow, gentle speech moves through the nervous system like a lullaby or wind through tall grass. You don't need to listen closely. Just being here is enough, as the mind prepares to move into deeper quiet. Darkness is one of the brain's oldest signals. When light fades, the mind often follows. Sunset, melting into night, lamps turning off one by one. Reduced light gently tells the brain that it's time to slow down. Darkness isn't empty or threatening here. It's protective, like a blanket drawn over the senses. In the dark, alertness softens, and the body is allowed to rest without watching the world so closely. With fewer sensations, the mind begins to drift more easily. When the world goes quiet, the brain relaxes its vigilance. Snowfall muffling sound, a wide field at night. Less input means less effort. Stillness isn't boredom, it's relief. The nervous system no longer needs to scan or react, and awareness can float without direction. Predictability deepens this release. The brain relaxes when surprises fade away. A familiar path walked many times, stars holding their positions in the sky. Knowing what comes next reduces the need for control. Bedtime rituals and repeated listening offer a soft landing. Nothing unexpected is waiting, and the mind can finally stop holding on. Breath plays a quiet role here too. Your breath quietly talks to your brain. Slow breathing carries a message of calm, like tides moving in and out or lanterns swaying gently. There's nothing to change or manage. Simply noticing the rhythm is enough. As the body settles further into rest, as sleep approaches, body awareness often begins to soften. The edges of the body feel less defined, as if dissolving gently into the bed. Some sensations feel heavy, others light or floating. You don't disappear, you soften. These sensations are natural signs of tension releasing, of the nervous system stepping back. And finally, thoughts themselves become less linear. At night, the mind wanders without needing a map. Ideas no longer follow straight lines. They meander like quiet paths, like fireflies drifting in the dark. Thoughts don't need to make sense to fade away. You can let them pass without following, preparing the way for deeper rest. You don't need to hold on to anything right now. Nothing you've heard needs to be remembered, or understood, or followed from start to finish. If your mind drifted away for a moment, that's not a mistake. That's part of resting. You might notice how your body feels now compared to earlier. Maybe a little heavier, maybe softer, maybe floating in a way that's hard to describe. There's no need to name it or change it. Just let the feeling be carried along, the way you might drift on water without trying to swim. If words fade in and out, that's welcome here. This space is like a quiet clearing, a long exhale between thoughts. And as you rest in it, the voice will continue gently, not to teach or demand attention, but simply to keep watch while your mind settles deeper. Familiar things ask very little of the mind. As night deepens, the brain begins to rest more easily with what it already knows. Familiar tones, familiar ideas, familiar rhythms feel like a well-worn book opened again, or a path smoothed by many footsteps. Nothing new needs to be learned. Nothing unexpected needs to be noticed. Repetition isn't boring to a tired brain. It's comforting. It signals safety, ease, and predictability, allowing alertness to soften without resistance. As this comfort grows, novelty slowly loses its pull. At night, curiosity gently folds its wings. Bright lights dim, and the mind stops reaching outward for new stimulation. This isn't disinterest or dullness. It's restfulness. The brain no longer needs to explore or evaluate. It turns inward, conserving energy, letting the world feel smaller and quieter. With less curiosity, attention naturally narrows. Sharp focus isn't needed at night. Like a camera lens gently blurring, edges dissolve and details soften. You may notice yourself half listening, drifting in and out of awareness. This is not a failure of attention. It's a natural shift. The mind is releasing precision in favor of ease, preparing for sleep. As focus fades, the sense of time often fades with it. Time loosens its grip at night. Minutes blur together, and clocks seem less important. Stars move without urgency. There is nowhere to be and nothing to measure. Releasing concern about how long it takes to fall asleep allows the nervous system to relax even further. In this timeless space, gentle thought loops can appear. Not all loops trap the mind. Some repeated thoughts are like lullabies, circling softly without urgency. They don't demand solutions. They simply repeat, calming rather than stimulating, allowing the mind to stay occupied without effort. And finally, emotions often settle into neutrality. Before sleep, feelings grow quieter, flattening into calm water. Colors fade into soft gray. This is not emptiness, but rest, a temporary stillness that prepares the mind and body for deeper sleep. At night, complexity quietly steps aside. As energy lowers, the brain naturally leans toward simplicity, preferring gentle input and open space over crowded detail. It's like sitting in a room with only one lamp lit, nothing competing for attention, nothing sharp or demanding. Simplicity here isn't a loss of depth, it's a kindness. With fewer details to hold, the mind can finally rest its grip, allowing calm to spread without effort. Because of this, simple language becomes easier for a tired mind. Your brain listens best to gentle words at night. Clear, familiar phrases feel lighter to carry, like smooth stones in the hand. You don't need to understand every word or follow every sentence. Meaning can drift like smoke, present without being held. The brain relaxes when language stops asking for precision. Along with simpler words comes a slower rhythm. The speed of sound matters to the mind. Gradual pacing reduces alertness, like a pendulum swinging slowly or a boat rocking on calm water. Nothing here is rushed. Nothing needs to be finished. Slowness gives the brain room to settle, to stop anticipating what comes next. Predictable speech patterns deepen that sense of safety. The brain relaxes when it knows what's coming. A consistent tone, a steady flow, feels like footsteps on a familiar staircase or the sound of calm breathing nearby. Predictability becomes a soft handrail, something to lean on without thinking, allowing vigilance to fade. As rest deepens, short-term memory begins to loosen. The mind lets go of small details first. Immediate moments fade like chalk from a board or windows gently fogging. Forgetting what was just heard is natural, expected, and welcome. Memory is releasing its hold, and forgetting itself can be a sign of relaxation. You don't lose the story, you drift from it. Pages close, lights dim in distant rooms. Falling asleep mid-thought isn't failure, it's the mind resting. As sleep approaches, inner images become softer. Pictures in the mind lose their sharp edges, slowing and blurring like watercolor paintings or fog rolling through a quiet valley. Vagueness isn't confusion here, it's calm. The imagination turns gentle, releasing clarity in favor of comfort, letting images come and go without definition. In this state, the brain often begins dreaming before sleep fully arrives. Dreaming doesn't wait for sleep to begin. Half-formed stories appear like echoes through a half-open door. The mind practices dreaming while awake, weaving fragments of memory and imagination together in a way that feels strange but safe. The mind also enjoys imagery without direction. Imagination doesn't need a destination. Images drift like balloons, floating freely, or leaves moving downstream. There's no need to assign meaning. Letting images wander reduces effort, allowing the mind to rest without becoming empty. As this continues, thoughts can feel less personal. Fatigue softens emotional attachment, creating distance. Thoughts pass like trains seen from far away, or clouds moving overhead. The mind steps back from its own stories, not by force, but by easing away. From here, passive observation can feel calming. You don't need to follow every thought. Watching can be enough. Like sitting by a river or noticing stars appear, awareness becomes quiet and effortless. Observation turns into rest. And with that distance, emotional quiet often follows. Feelings don't disappear, they soften. Sounds fade through the walls. Lights glow far away. Distance brings peace, gently preparing the mind for the next pause. It's okay if you don't remember what came just before this. That's not something to fix. That's a sign that rest is already happening. You don't need to follow the meaning of the words anymore. You can let them soften into sound, the way music does when you're half asleep. Let the voice carry you gently without asking anything in return. You might feel as if you're floating, or being held, or moving slowly through darkness. There's nowhere to arrive, nothing to decide, just this quiet moment unfolding on its own. And as the voice continues, it does so lightly, like something heard in a dream, opening the way to a few more calm ideas waiting softly ahead. At night, the mind stops checking itself so closely. As fatigue grows, the brain tires of self-monitoring. The constant awareness of how you're doing, how you're feeling, how you appear begins to fade. It's like a mirror dimming, reflection softening until it no longer demands attention. Letting go of self-awareness isn't a loss. It's a natural shift toward rest. The mind steps aside from watching itself, allowing quiet to take its place. As self-monitoring eases, self-criticism often softens too. The inner critic gets tired. Harsh thoughts lose energy at night, their sharp edges rounding off. The stern voice lowers, becoming less insistent. There's no need to argue with it or correct it. Fatigue does the work on its own, reducing intensity and allowing space where judgment once lived. In that space, emotional forgiveness can feel easier. Night makes room for softness. Knots loosen. Hands unclench. This isn't about deciding to forgive or forgetting what happened. It's simply emotional easing. The weight of feeling lightening without effort. Forgiveness, when it appears, arrives quietly. As feelings soften, empathy often becomes more diffuse. At night, emotions blend more easily. Boundaries relax. Warmth spreads gently, like colors melting together, or heat filling a quiet room. This empathy isn't intense or overwhelming. It's calm, spacious, and kind. With this shift, social concerns lose urgency. The day's conversations slowly quiet. Worries about how you were seen, what was said, or what should come next step back into the distance. Voices fade. The mind no longer needs to replay or rehearse. Relief settles in, and finally, the sense of identity itself can feel lighter. At night, you don't have to be anyone. Roles fade when the lights go down. Labels loosen. Names dissolve into quiet. This isn't losing yourself. It's resting from being someone, preparing the mind and body to merge into deeper calm. As sleep draws closer, the boundary between mind and body often begins to soften. The line between thinking and feeling fades, and the two start to move together in a quieter way. It can feel like being surrounded by warm water, or like fog gently blurring the edges of everything. Sensations and thoughts are no longer separate experiences. They blend into one calm presence. This merging is natural and comforting, a sign that the nervous system is settling and no longer dividing the world into parts that need attention. With this blending, heaviness may appear in the body. Heaviness doesn't mean strain. It often means rest. Muscles release their effort, sinking the way sand settles at the bottom of clear water. Blankets press gently. The body feels held rather than tense. This weight is a signal of safety, the body trusting the surface beneath it enough to let go. After heaviness, lightness sometimes follows. The body may forget its weight entirely, floating or drifting without effort. Sensations rise like feathers lifting, or slow balloons ascending. These shifts are temporary and safe, simple signs that awareness is changing as sleep approaches. As this happens, awareness of space begins to shrink. The world gently steps back. Rooms feel smaller. Darkness closes in softly, not as confinement, but as protection. Space becomes quieter, less demanding, allowing the mind to rest inward. In this quiet, silence reveals itself as something full. Silence has a texture of its own, like snow-covered fields or deep underwater stillness. Quiet can feel warm and containing, not empty or lonely. And within this silence, pauses in thought grow longer. Thoughts begin to rest between themselves. Gaps stretch gently, like spaces between waves at dusk. You don't need to fill these pauses. They are already doing their work. As the night deepens, the brain gradually releases control. Control slips away on its own, without effort or decision. The mind stops holding so tightly. It's like hands opening or ropes loosening. Nothing forced, nothing directed. Effort simply dissolves, replaced by stillness. From here, trust begins to take its place. Sleep arrives when trust replaces effort. Letting go feels safer than holding on. This trust is quiet, almost unnoticeable, like leaning back and realizing you're already supported, or being carried gently by calm water. With trust comes acceptance. Sleep doesn't like to be chased. Accepting wakefulness can reduce tension, allowing the mind to rest even if sleep hasn't fully arrived yet. Waiting without impatience, hands open rather than clenched, the body settles into a state that is already close to sleep. Patience follows naturally. Nothing urgent is happening now. Patience feels like safety, like a still pond or a long horizon that doesn't need to be reached. Slowness becomes a gift, signaling to the brain that there is no danger, no rush. Somewhere within this patience, surrender happens, often unnoticed. You don't feel the exact moment you fall asleep. It's like slipping gently below water or pages turning on their own. Sleep arrives quietly, without announcement. And finally, comfort continues even without awareness. Rest doesn't need your attention. Like fires burning overnight or rooms warming in silence, the body rests whether the mind is present or not. Comfort holds on, preparing the way for the next gentle pause. You may already be drifting now, slipping in and out in small, gentle waves. That's perfectly fine. There is no right way to listen, no correct place to be. Whether you're awake, half dreaming, or already asleep, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You might feel as if you're being carried by water, by air, by the night itself, supported without effort, held without needing to notice how. The words don't need to be followed anymore. They can circle softly, repeating comfort in different shapes, like the same thought returning in a dream. If sleep comes and goes, let it. If you float somewhere in between, that's enough. The voice continues quietly now, not beginning or ending, simply moving along with you into the next gentle stretch of rest. The brain relaxes when it knows there's nothing to do. When no action is required, alertness naturally decreases. An empty to-do list, a closed notebook resting on a table at night. No effort is one of the clearest signals of rest. This isn't instruction, it's permission. The mind softens when it realizes it isn't expected to respond, solve, or improve anything. Simply being here is already enough. From this permission, openness begins to appear. Calm often feels like openness. Nothing held, nothing pushed away. Like windows open to a wide night sky. Resistance loosens on its own. There's no need to strive for this feeling. Openness arrives quietly when effort steps aside. In this open space, thoughts become more spacious too. Small, narrow thoughts take work. Wide thoughts drift. Broad, vague awareness asks very little of the mind, like looking out across open plains or watching slow clouds cross the sky. Vagueness here isn't confusion, it's relief. Awareness itself can remain without focus. Awareness doesn't need effort. You can notice without concentrating. The way you might see distant stars without trying to name them. Half listening is enough. Drifting attention is welcome. As sleep approaches, awareness fades gradually. It doesn't stop, it softens. Like lights lowering or sound dissolving into silence, the mind fades the way evening fades, without edges or sudden change. And through all of this, sleep does not need to be forced. Sleep already knows the way. Like gravity pulling gently or tides following the moon, your body understands rest without guidance. You don't have to lead. You can follow, letting the night continue its quiet work. The brain relaxes when it knows what's coming. Repetition feels like being guided, especially when energy is low. Familiar sounds and ideas settle the nervous system the way a lullaby does, not by surprising you, but by returning again and again in the same gentle shape. Footsteps echoing along a well-known path don't require attention. Hearing similar ideas is not redundant to a tired mind. It's calming. Repetition tells the brain it can stop watching closely because nothing unexpected is about to happen. This sense of ease grows stronger in predictable environments. When nothing is changing, there's nothing to watch for. Curtains drawn the same way each night, the quiet shape of a familiar room, stars fixed in place outside the window. Stillness tells the brain it's safe. The space around you quietly supports rest, holding steady so the mind doesn't have to. Because of this stability, vigilance slowly turns off. The brain stops standing watch. It's like a guard setting down a lantern, gates closing gently without a sound. Nothing needs protecting right now. Alertness, once useful, becomes unnecessary. The nervous system understands that the night has taken over, and it truly has. The night does the work for you. Darkness and quiet carry the responsibility of rest, wrapping the world in a way that doesn't ask for participation. You don't have to manage rest or guide yourself into sleep. Hands take over gently, doing what they've always done. As holding fades, surrender often feels like relief. Relief comes when effort stops. Shoulders loosen. A heavy bag is set down. There's no instruction here, just the description of ease appearing on its own. Sleep doesn't rush. Rest unfolds slowly, the way dusk turns into night, colors fading one by one. There's no moment to catch, no progress to track. Drifting is enough. As rest deepens, the brain stops tracking progress. The mind forgets to check the clock. Awareness of time and change fades naturally, like a clock without hands, or stars moving unnoticed across the sky. Progress becomes unimportant. There is nothing to measure and nowhere to arrive. In this space, timelessness can feel comforting. Without time, there's nothing to hurry. Floating in deep water or looking into an endless night sky, the absence of time feels wide and calm. Timelessness here isn't loss. It's safety, a place where pressure dissolves. Within this calm, stillness reveals itself as something active. Stillness is not empty. The brain works quietly when resting, like snow settling or embers glowing without flame. Rest is supported from within even when nothing seems to be happening, and that care continues through sleep. Your brain doesn't stop caring. Like a house running at night with lights on in distant rooms, basic regulation continues quietly. Breathing, balance, warmth, all of it carries on without needing awareness. Trust makes this possible. Trust lets go without effort. When safety remains, awareness loosens naturally, like slipping beneath warm water or drifting clouds separating from the sky. Nothing needs to be held together. And finally, deep sleep feels like disappearing gently. You don't notice the moment you disappear. Lights go out one by one. Curtains close softly. Sleep arrives quietly without alarm, preparing the way for the final pause. You may not need to follow the words anymore. They can move past you now, the way waves pass beneath a drifting boat. Drifting away is not something you have to notice. Sleep can come quietly, without permission, without any clear moment of arrival. Even if you wake again later, this rest still counts. This softness still matters. The night is steady and patient, watching over everything without effort. It doesn't rush. It doesn't ask. Let the voice become part of the background now, something present, but no longer necessary to track, like the sound of wind outside or the quiet rhythm of distance. And as this calm continues, the next thoughts simply carry on, gently, as if they were already there. As sleep approaches, the mind stops asking questions. The need to analyze or understand slowly dissolves, like questions fading into mist or books closing one by one on a quiet shelf. The mind doesn't need answers at night. Curiosity rests too. Uncertainty feels less urgent in the dark, no longer something to solve, just something to drift past without weight. From here, not knowing can feel peaceful. Not knowing is a kind of rest. Open hands, empty skies. Understanding can wait. When the mind releases its need to make sense of everything, effort falls away. Uncertainty becomes softness instead of tension, a space where nothing presses in. As effort fades, awareness itself becomes very simple. Awareness grows smaller and quieter, narrowing into a single sense of being. Like a small candle flame or one distant star, there is presence without complexity. Being is enough. Nothing else needs to be added. In this simplicity, presence requires no effort. You don't have to stay present. Presence happens by itself. Breath moves on its own. Leaves float without direction. Existing doesn't require attention or control. Awareness continues quietly, without work. Gradually, the mind fades into the background. Thoughts grow distant. Sounds drift farther away. Lights dim behind you. This fading is not loss. It's a gentle retreat. The mind steps back, allowing rest to come forward. And even if sleep has not fully arrived, rest deepens all the same. Rest doesn't wait for sleep. Still water. Night air settling. Stillness itself is already rest, holding you gently as the night continues toward its quiet end. As sleep approaches, the brain no longer searches for meaning. The need to interpret, analyze, or understand slowly fades. Words dissolve into sound. Symbols lose their edges. Meaning loosens its hold at night, and the mind stops asking what things mean. Nothing needs interpretation right now. Experience doesn't require explanation. It's safe to let understanding rest. When meaning steps aside, experience becomes softer than thought. Feeling remains when thinking rests. Warm air on the skin. A distant hum without a clear source. Sensation lingers gently, without needing to be named. Experience softens into something wordless, inviting you to rest in what is felt rather than what is thought. As this continues, awareness itself can become almost invisible. Awareness doesn't disappear, it thins. Like a barely glowing ember or moonlight behind clouds, you're still here, just quietly. This fading is safe. Nothing is being lost. Consciousness is simply becoming lighter, less defined. Near this point, effort fully releases. Nothing is being held anymore. Muscles release. Knots undo themselves. Effort lets go on its own, without decision or intention. The body and mind ease together, as if they've remembered how to rest. And even now, nothing needs to be finished. Completion is not required to rest. Open books can remain on tables. Melodies can pause mid-note. Rest does not require closure. Unfinished thoughts are allowed to drift. Letting go often happens without noticing. You don't see sleep arrive, like slipping into darkness or being carried by gentle tides. Letting go happens quietly, preparing the way for the deepest calm. Stillness arrives gently. The mind settles into quiet, like a lake without ripples or windless night air. Mental activity reduces to near silence, not empty, but full, holding a quiet presence that doesn't ask for attention. In this stillness, comfort can exist without thought. Comfort doesn't need words. Warm blankets, protected spaces. Safety remains without thinking. Even if awareness fades, the body continues to feel held, supported, and at ease. Rest deepens in layers. Surrender comes gradually, not all at once. Curtains close one by one. Lights dim slowly. Each layer of rest feels softer than the last, easing the nervous system without effort. Through it all, trust remains. Trust stays even when you don't. Safety continues quietly, like being carried through darkness on steady ground. Awareness may fade, but trust does not. Sleep is not a loss, it's a return. Sleep brings you back to something familiar, like going home or closing a well-known door. Nothing is lost in rest. Everything essential remains. And finally, rest holds you gently, hands cradling, soft darkness surrounding. You are supported. Rest is already holding you, carrying you forward into whatever comes next. As sleep deepens, the brain stops separating thoughts. Ideas no longer stand apart from one another. Colors blend into a single shade, borders soften, and distinctions melt away. Everything begins to blend, not into confusion, but into gentle unity. Thoughts lose their edges and stop competing for space. This blending is calm and natural, a sign that the mind no longer needs to organize or compare. It's a quiet coming together, where nothing needs to be sorted or named. With this blending, structure fades without resistance. Order loosens naturally. Shelves dissolve into open space, and straight lines soften into curves. Nothing needs arranging now. This is not chaos, it's rest. The mind releases its need for order the same way the body releases tension, without effort or concern. Even as thinking quiets, being remains. You remain even without thought. Like a steady flame in the dark, or the soft rhythm of breathing, existence continues on its own. Being does not depend on thinking. This is a deep reassurance at the edge of sleep. Nothing essential disappears when thoughts fall silent. Rest, too, requires no awareness. Rest happens without you. The body and brain continue their quiet work, like systems running overnight or stars moving unseen across the sky. Awareness is optional now. There is nothing left to notice or control. Through it all, the night carries you forward. The night knows where to take you. Like a river carrying a small boat, or clouds drifting across a dark sky, sleep unfolds naturally as time passes. You don't need to move. You're already being carried. And now, nothing is asked of you. There is nothing to do. Everything can wait. Hands open, paths empty, doors close gently behind you. Responsibility releases completely, leaving only rest. Sleep gathers you slowly. It doesn't rush or overtake. It wraps around awareness the way fog rolls in or blankets are pulled up gently. Rest arrives from all sides, protective rather than consuming. There is no edge to cross, only a soft enclosure forming on its own. Unconsciousness is gentle. Losing awareness happens quietly, without struggle. Lights dim. Sounds fade into the distance. Nothing pulls you under. Control is not taken away. It simply becomes unnecessary. This softness replaces effort with ease. Your body knows how to rest. Your body remembers sleep. Rest is built in, like tides responding to the moon or breath moving on its own in the dark. Sleep is not a skill to learn. It's something ancient and familiar, returning whenever conditions are quiet enough. And now, you are already safe to sleep. Safety is present without conditions. Being held. Night surrounding gently. You are safe. Sleep can come now, in its own time, without needing anything more. If you're still awake, that's perfectly fine. If you've been drifting in and out, that's fine too. And if sleep has already come and gone in small waves, that's exactly how rest works. Thank you for being here, for sharing this quiet stretch of night. There was nothing you needed to do to make it meaningful. Whether you listened closely, barely noticed the words, or slept through most of them, this time was enough. This space will remain here, night after night, whenever your mind needs something soft to rest against. Not something to focus on, just something familiar in the dark. A steady presence, waiting without urgency. For now, the night continues on its own. Stars hold their places. Darkness stays watchful. Breathing moves gently, without instruction. Rest unfolds naturally, just as it always has. There's nothing left to hold, nothing left to follow. Only the quiet carrying you forward, and the night staying with you as everything grows still.